Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. If anybody comes on, let me know if you can hear me. So I'll wait a minute, maybe 1 minute. I'm going to read chapter 9. I could do it on a recording like I have been doing, but I thought I'd get on tonight and see if anybody is listening. And if you get on, either leave a comment or let me know if you've been if you're up to date on the chapter 1 through 8. After tonight, it'll be 1 through 9 because I'm reading chapter 9 tonight. So, and if nobody cares, I will stop reading. What did I just see there? Huh. Oops. Oh. All right, ass. Hey, Mary, how you doing? I've been reading the Chronicles of Narnia, one of the Chronicles of Narnia books, Silver Chair number 4, because I like it because it's a standalone book. I have about 8 videos up on it, a couple of introductory ones, and then the last one is chapter 8. So, are you caught up on that or not? Oh, cool. Okay, I'm on chapter 9. If that's all right, you can go back. The other ones are all uploaded on my channel, so you can just go back and listen to them. I'll catch up, but I'm going to go ahead and read this one now. So, I might wait maybe 1 more minute. I have several people that usually are on, and I'll try to talk. Yeah, I got a microphone, so let me know. Are you hearing me okay? I've got a little fuzzy microphone, but you can hear the blowing, but I suppose it's one of the little windproof ones, but hopefully it's good. You want me to start reading? Okay, I'm going to do that. So what I do is I've been reading the last paragraph of the last chapter, so just kind of catch up for me. So they're on a quest to find the Prince Aurelian, who is the son of King Caspian from the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Books 2 and 3 is Prince Caspian and Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Anyway, they're on a quest to find him. He's been kidnapped by one of the evil Nephilim type witches, the Green Witch, not instead of the White Witch. Okay, so anyway, last paragraph of chapter 8. Oh, good, how lovely, said Jill. And we may come to the feast tomorrow night, mayn't we? We're so longing for tomorrow night, and we do love being here. And while you're out, we may run over the whole castle and see everything, mayn't we? You do say yes. The queen did say yes, but the laughter of all the courtiers nearly drowned her voice. So they're in the city of Harfang, gentle giants. They were sent there by the Lady of the Green Kirtle, the wicked witch lady that kidnapped Prince Caspian. So, all right. Anybody else on? No. Okay, cool. Yeah, the movies were like, Prince Caspian was terrible. Voyage of the Dawn Treader was okay, but they didn't do a great job. They could have done a better job, to put it that way. But it's nice to see them attempt at, there's the old BBC ones too. I think they did all of them. I don't think they did all of them, but they did first one, second one, third one. Yeah, they did up to the Silver Chair. I think. I don't know. Do not think they did Horse and His Boy or any of those. So okay, and I know I'm not talking well. I'm tired. Had a good day. My grandson came over and we went down and we actually found and dug up my ground trench rocket stove, Dakota Fire, whatever you want to call it, and put this stainless steel pipe in it. So I'm doing video of that. I'll have that uploaded pretty soon. First one anyway. I have a series on that. Okay, so that's very important to me. One of my life projects. I feel it's going to be very, 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 very important. I know it's very important. So I'm hoping it all comes together and get video and get financing. I still have not gotten financing to get out to North Carolina, but they're still working on it. So they're going to come and get me when they get a truck running. All right. Anyway, Chapter 9. How they discovered something worth knowing. The others admitted afterwards that Jill had been wonderful that day. As soon as the king and the rest of the hunting party had set off, she began making a tour of the whole castle and asking questions, but all in such an innocent, babyish way that no one would suspect her of any secret design. Though her tongue was never still, you could hardly say she talked. She prattled and giggled. She made love to everyone, the grooms, the porters, the housemaids, the ladies in waiting, and the elderly giant lords whose hunting days were past. She submitted to being kissed and pawed about by any number of giantesses, many of whom seemed sorry for her and called her poor little thing, although none of them explained why. She made especial friends with the cook and discovered the all-important fact that there was a scullery door which let you out through the outer wall, so you did not have to cross the courtyard or pass the great gatehouse. In the kitchen, she pretended to be greedy and ate all sorts of scraps which the cooks and scullions delighted to give her. But upstairs, among the ladies, she asked questions about how she would be dressed for the great feast, and how long she would be allowed to sit up, and whether she would dance with some very, very small giant. And then it made her hot all over when she remembered it afterwards. She put her head to one side in an idiotic fashion, which grown-ups, the giant and otherwise, thought very fetching, shake her curls and fidget and say, "Oh, I do wish it was tomorrow night, don't you? Do you think the time will go quickly till then?" And all the giantesses said that she was a perfect little darling, and some of them dabbed their eyes with enormous handkerchiefs as if they're going to cry. "They're dear little things at that age," said one giantess to another. "It seems almost a pity." Scrub and Puddleglum did their best, but girls do that kind of thing better than boys. Even boys do it better than Marshwiggles. At lunchtime, something happened which made all three of them more anxious than ever to leave the castle of the gentle giants. They had lunch in the great hall at a little table of their own near the fireplace. At a bigger table, about 20 yards away, a half a dozen old giants were lunching. Their conversation was so noisy and so high up in the air that the children soon took no more notice of it than you would of hooters outside the window or traffic noises in the street. They were eating cold venison, a kind of food which Jill had never tasted before, and she was liking it. Suddenly Puddleglum turned to them, and his face had gone so pale that you could almost see the paleness under the natural muddiness of his complexion. He said, "Don't eat another bite." "What's wrong?" asked the other two in a whisper. "Didn't you hear what those giants were saying?" "That's a nice tender haunch of venison," said one of them. "Then that stag was a liar," said another. "Why?" said the first one. "Oh, he said they said when he was caught, he said, 'Don't kill me, I'm tough, you won't like me.'" For a moment Jill did not realize the full meaning of this, but she did when Scrub's eyes opened wide with horror, and he said, "So we've been eating a talking stag?" This discovery didn't exactly have the same effect on all of them. Jill, who was new to that world, was sorry for the poor stag and thought it was rotten of the giants to have killed him. Scrub, who had been in that world before and had at least one talking beast as his dear friend, felt horrified, as you might feel about a murder. But Puddleglum, who is Narnian born, was sick and faint, and felt as you would feel if you found you had eaten a baby. Hold on. "We brought the anger of Aslan upon us," he said. "That's what comes of not attending to the signs. We're under a curse, I expect. If it was allowed, it would be the best thing we could do to take these knives and drive them through our own hearts." And gradually even Joe came to see it from his point of view. At any rate, none of them wanted any more hot lunch. As soon as they thought it safe, they crept quietly out of the hall. It was now drawing near to the time of day on which their hopes of escape depended, and all became nervous. They hung about in passages and waited for the things to become quiet. The giants in the hall sat on a dreadfully long time after the meal was over. The bald one was telling a story. When that was over, the three travelers dawdled down to the kitchen. But there were still plenty of giants there, or at least in the scullery, washing up and putting things away. It was agonizing waiting till these finished their jobs and one by one wiped their hands and went away. At last, only one old giantess was left in the room. She pottered about, and at last the three travelers realized with horror that she did not intend to go away at all. "Well, dearie," she said to them, "that job's about not through. Let's put the kettle there. That'll make a nice cup of tea presently. Now I can have a little bit of a rest. Just look into the scullery like good paupers and tell me if the back door is open." "Yes, it is," said Scrub. "That's right. I always leave it open so his puss can get in and out. Poor thing. Then she sat down on one chair and put her feet up on another. I don't know as I might have 40 winks, she said. If only that blamey hunting party doesn't come back too soon. All their spirits leaped up when she mentioned 40 winks and flopped down again when she mentioned the return of the hunting party. When do they usually come back? Asked Jill. You never can tell, said the giantess, but there, go and be quiet for a bit, my dearies. They retreated to the far end of the kitchen and would have slipped out into the scullery there and then, if the giantess had not sat up, opened her eyes, and brushed away a fly. Don't try it till we're sure she's really asleep, whispered Scrub, or it'll spoil everything. So they all huddled at the kitchen end, waiting and watching. The thought that the hunters might come back at any moment was terrible, and the giantess was fidgety. Whenever they thought she had really gone to sleep, she moved. I can't bear this, thought Jill. To distract her mind, she began looking about her. Just in front of her was a clean wide table with 2 clean pie dishes on it and an open book. They were giant pie dishes, of course. Jill thought that she could lie down just comfortably in one of them, and then she climbed up on the bench beside the table to look at the book. She read, Mallard. This delicious bird can be cooked in a variety of ways. It's a cookery book, thought Jill, without much interest, and glanced over her shoulder. The giantess's eyes were closed, but she didn't look at it as if she were properly asleep. Jill glanced back at the book. It was arranged alphabetically, and at the very next entry her heart seemed to stop beating. It ran, Man, this elegant little biped has long been valued as a delicacy. It forms a traditional part of the autumn feast, and is served between the fish and the joint. Each man, but she could not bear to read anymore. She turned around. The giantess had wakened up and was having a fit of coughing. Jill nudged the other 2 and pointed to the book. They also mounted the bench and bent over the huge pages. Scrub was still reading about how to cook men when Puddleglum pointed to the next entry below it. It was like this: Marshwiggle. Some authorities reject this animal altogether as unfit for giant's consumption because of its stringy consistency and muddy flavor. The flavor can, however, be reduced if... Jill touched his feet and scrubbed it gently. All 3 looked back at the giantess. Her mouth was slightly open, and from her noise there came a sound which at that moment was more welcome to them than any music. She snored. And now it was a question of tiptoe work, not daring to go too fast, hardly daring to breathe out through the scullery. Giant sculleries smell horrid, out at last into the pale sunlight of a winter afternoon. They were at the top of a rough little path which ran steeply down, and thank heavens on the right side of the castle. The city ruinous was in sight. In a few minutes they were back on the broad, steep road which led down from the main gate of the castle. They were also in full view from every single window on that side. If it had been one, 2, or 5 windows, there'd be a reasonable chance that no one might be looking out, but there were nearly 50 than 5. They now realized, too, that the road on which they were, and indeed all the ground between them and the city ruinous, didn't offer as much cover as could hide a fox. It was all coarse grass and pebbles and flat stones. To make matters worse, they were now in the clothes that the giants had provided for them the night last night, except Puddleglum, whom nothing would fit. Jill wore a vivid green robe, rather too long for her, and over with that a scarlet mantle fringed with white fur. Scrub had scarlet stockings, blue tunic and coat, and a gold-hilted sword, and a feathered bonnet. Nice bits of color you 2 are, muttered Puddleglum. Show very prettily on a winter day. The worst archer in the world couldn't miss either of you if you were in range. And talking of archers, we'll be sorry not to have our own bows before long, I shouldn't wonder. Bit thin, too, these clothes of yours, are they? Yes, I'm freezing already, said Jill. A few minutes ago, when they had been in the kitchen, she had thought that if they could only get outside the castle, their escape would be almost complete. She now realized that it was the most dangerous part of it was still to come. Steady, steady, said Puddleglum. Don't look back. Don't walk too quickly. Whatever you do, don't run. Just look as if we're just taking a stroll, and then if anyone sees us, he might just possibly not bother. The moment we look like we're people running away, we're done. The distance to the city ruinous seemed almost longer than Jill would have believed possible, but bit by bit they were covering it. Then came a noise. The other 2 gasped. Jill, who didn't know what it was, said, What's that? Hunting horn, whispered Scrub. But don't run even now, said Puddleglum, not until I give the word. This time Jill couldn't help glancing over her shoulder. There, about half a mile away, was the hunt returning from behind them on the left. They walked on. Suddenly a great clamor of giants arose, then shouts and hollas. They've seen us. Run, said Puddleglum. Jill gathered up her long skirts, horrible things for running, and ran. There was no mistaking the danger now. She could hear the music of the hounds. She could hear the king's voice roaring out, after them, or we'll have no man pies tomorrow, or marshwiggle pie. She was last of the three now, encumbered with her dress, slipping on loose stones, her hair getting in her mouth, running pains across her chest. The hounds were much nearer. Now she had to run uphill, so the stony slope which led to the lowest step of the giant stairway. She had no idea what they would do when they got there, or how they would be any better off when they reached the top. But she didn't think about that. She was like a hunted animal now. As long as the pack was after her, she must run till she dropped. The marshwiggle was ahead. He came to the lowest step. He stopped, looked a little to his right, and all of a sudden darted into a little hole or crevice at the bottom of it. His long legs, disappearing into it, looked very like those of a spider. Scrub hesitated and then vanished after him. Jill, breathless and reeling, came to the place about a minute later. It was an unattractive hole, a crack between the earth and a stone about 3 feet long and hardly more than a foot high. You had to fling yourself flat on their face and crawl in. You couldn't do it very quickly either. She felt sure that a dog's teeth would be close on her heel before she got inside. Quick, quick, stones, fill up the opening, came Puddleglum's voice in the darkness behind her. It was pitch black in there, except for the gray light in the opening by which they had crawled in. The other two were working hard. She could see Scrub's small hands and the marshwiggle's big frog-like hands black against the light, working desperately to pile up stones. Then she realized how important this was and began groping for large stones herself and handing them to the others. Before the dogs were baying and yelping at the cave mouth. They had it pretty well filled, and now, of course, there was no light at all. Farther in, quick, said Puddleglum's voice. Let's all hold hands, said Jill. Good idea, said Scrub, but it took them quite a long time to find one another's hands in the darkness. The dogs were sniffing at the other side of the barrier now. Try if we can stand up, suggested Scrub. They did and found that they could. Then Puddleglum holding out a hand behind him to Scrub, and Scrub holding a hand behind him to Jill, who wished very much that she was in the middle now, the middle one of the party, and not the last one. They began groping with their feet and stumbling forwards into the blackness. It was all loose stones underfoot. Then Puddleglum came up against a wall of rock. They turned a little to their right and went on. There were a good many more twists and turns. Jill now had no sense of direction at all and no idea where the mouth of the cave lay. The question is, came Puddleglum's voice out of the darkness ahead. Whether taking one thing and another, it would be better to go back, if we can, and give the giants a treat at their feast of theirs, instead of losing our way in the guts of a hill, where 10 to 1 there's dragons and deep holes and gases and waters and let go, save yourselves, After that, all happened quickly. There was a wild cry, a swishing, dusty, gravelly noise, a rattle of stones, and Jill found herself sliding, hopelessly sliding, and sliding quicker every moment down a slope that grew steeper every moment. It was not a smooth, firm slope, but a slope of small stones and rubbish. Even if you could have stood up, it would have been no use. Any bit of that slope you had put your foot on would have slid away from under you and carried you down with it. But Jill was more lying than standing, and the farther they all slid, the more they disturbed all the stones and dirt and earth were. So that the general downward rush at everything, including themselves, got faster and faster, louder and louder, and dustier and dirtier. From the sharp cries and swearing of the other two, Jill got the idea that many of the stones which she was dislodging were hitting Scrub and Puddleglum. Were hitting Scrub and Puddleglum pretty hard, and now she was going at a furious rate and felt sure they would be broken at bits to the bottom. Yet somehow they weren't. There were a mass of bruises, and the wet, sticky stuff on her face appeared to be blood. And such a mass of loose earth, shingle, and larger stones were piled up around her and partly over her that she couldn't get up. The darkness was so complete that it made no difference at all whether you had your eyes open or shut. There was no noise, and that was the very worst moment Jill had ever known in her life. Supposing she was alone, supposing the others, then she heard movements around her, and presently all three in shaken voices were explaining that none of them seemed to have any broken bones. We could never get back up that again, said Scrub's voice. Have you noticed how warm it is, said the voice of Puddleglum. That means we're a long way down. Might be nearly a mile. No one said anything. Sometimes later, Puddleglum added, my tinderbox is gone. In another long pause, Jill said, I'm terribly thirsty. No one suggested doing anything. There was so obviously nothing to be done. For the moment, they did not feel it quite so badly as one might have expected. That was because they were so tired. Long, long afterwards, without the slightest warning, an utterly strange voice spoke. They knew at once that it was now the one voice in the whole world for which they had secretly been hoping. It was not the one voice in the whole world for which they had been secretly hoping, the voice of Aslan. It was a dark, flat voice, almost as if you know what that means, a pitch black voice. It said, "What make you here, creatures of the overworld?" That's chapter 9. So. Anybody else know? Rick, how you doing? Wow. How's it going down there? And how's the investments? Wow. Someday. So hoping for funds to get down to out to North Carolina. I don't know if you know about that, but my grandson came by today, and we went down and dug up. I mean, he walked almost right to where I have a in-ground rocket stove down there, and I thought it had one piece of heavy gauge steel pipe, like quarter-inch wall, heavy steel pipe. The whole thing was steel pipe. I did not remember that. I didn't remember all the installation I had in there. But anyway, he dug it up. He dug it all up. It was a beautiful job. We got the new stainless steel pipe laid in. So I did a video of that. I'll upload it tonight. But what I want to do is I want to have a video example of putting it in, explaining how I did it the first time and how I did it this time. I'm just gonna be a cut rate deal this time, just because I just want to get it down. I want to get it done. I can pull it back up, dig it up really easily, and take it somewhere else. Take it with me when I go to North Carolina. I want to get it up and running. And if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, mention it. But if you go to my YouTube channel, go to a playlist and look up Dakota Firehole rocket stove. I don't know what the term of it is, but you can find. I got about 15 playlists on the whole system. Look what does it say? Best of. Anyway, that's what I want to do, is get video of it so people all around the world can know how to do it and know that they can sleep on warm ground. Like I wanted to get early on, I wanted to get out to North Carolina because there's so many people living in tents, people that are homeless, freezing in tents.